Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Sales. I'm Ashleigh Early.
And I'm Kasey Jones.
And today we're going to talk a little bit about heroes. And in the spirit of 2020, we are recording this on September 19th, less than 24 hours after we found out about the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And just on a personal note, this has hit me personally very hard. She was one of my idols and someone that I've looked up to since I was a little girl in first or second grade, and I had to do a project on Supreme Court justices, and I kind of learned and started to understand her story. So to have her death come like that, and to her to use her last words to be a call for how to handle her replacement really hurt. And I spent a lot of the past day trying to reconcile and figure out and get comfortable with the new reality. And one of the things that's come from that is a reminder of the importance of having heroes. Because while she is gone, and it hurts, and there's obviously a lot of political consequences that we're not going to go into, she has given me so much inspiration during my life and will continue to be that source of inspiration that we decided to take today's episode and call out a few of our own heroes to highlight the importance of having these people.
And, look, one of the things also, this is one of the reasons why we talk a lot about representation, that having a hero that looks like you, that you can identify with, that makes you feel like your dreams are possible, is such a powerful influence in your life. And it's something that I think you don't always recognize, and you'll have these experiences where somebody that you do really look up to either does something amazing and you get that much more jazzed, or something awful happens and it's really devastating. And I think it's important for us to talk about this and to share when we are inspired by someone, so that maybe someone else can be inspired by them too.
And we want to share this too. We do want this especially to be a discussion. So please be active on, we're both going to post about this on LinkedIn. We want to hear who your heroes are in the comments. We want to hear from you guys we're also going to be restarting our blog pretty soon. So if you feel like writing an article about one of your heroes, we'd love to hear all about it. But just kind of diving right in, because I know I opened it up. For me, like I said, I've kind of been following Ruth Bader Ginsburg for a long time. But one of the quotes that really stuck with me over the years, because my mother actually shared it with me, is that Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, "My mother told me to be a lady, and for her that meant to be your own person and be independent." And to have my mother tell me that quote as a child was very influential. It was a more upscale version of throw like a girl, but then it's like the girl who throws the softball at like 100 miles an hour and knocks a guy's head off. So it was this idea that being a lady is strength and is power and is not some wilting flower. Oh, I do believe I doth have the vapors. It's standing up for what you believe in.
Yeah.
And seeing someone who is like 5'1", maybe. I'm not even sure she was 5 foot.
And like 100 pounds soaking wet.
Good Lord. Tiny, tiny little woman from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Doing this. And, I'm one of those people who I actually will listen to Supreme Court arguments, and you hear her just ask these little questions. It seems so innocuous in this tiny little voice, and just shut down these lawyers it's powerful to behold. And so it's always something. I don't have her gift for language. I'm much more verbose, but that idea of trying to have my words have the impact that hers have had has something that's always been very inspirational to me.
Yeah, I mean, was a force to be reckoned with, for sure, and especially for her generation to view being ladylike as being that force. She was way ahead of her time and a phenomenal role model for the rest of us.
And she was human. She had flaws. You know, before we got on, Kasey and I were discussing some decisions that were made that maybe we don't agree with. But I think that's one of the things that makes it great. She's not a saint. She was a human. She was all things, and that's what the things that makes a lady a lady. We're all multidimensional.
Absolutely.
So let's go on to some other heroes. And Kasey, I think I want you to go first because I love your first one.
So I'm actually going to switch my order.
Okay.
But so my first one is Maya Angelou. I have really been an admirer of hers for a number of years. And there's just certain quotes that she has that have really stuck with me. But, and I think I've already said it probably multiple times on this podcast, but one of the ones that has had a huge impact on my life and how I look at the kind of person I want to be and the kind of role I want to play is her quote, where she says, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And I think about it all the time, about how I want to make people feel. And it's something that has kind of been my North Star. It shapes everything that I do, and it's something that is so simple. And for me, so incredibly deeply powerful. And I think she also, I mean, her story is a tough and inspiring one. If you haven't read I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, or if you haven't read it since you were like in high school, which was the case for me,
Yep.
and I chose it for my book club book probably last summer, and reread it, and it was just absolutely astounding what she did and what she managed to do, and the life that she had, and to overcome what she did and live a life that was so filled with beauty and so filled with strength was absolutely astounding and inspires me every day.
That's so true. And you've been saying that quote a lot lately, and it always gives me something every time. I'll switch up my order too. So the next one, because I'm a political junkie, actually is John McCain. I had the very good fortune of actually meeting John McCain when I was about 10, I think 10 or 11. My family, we lived in Washington State. We went on vacation to Arizona, and he was doing a campaign stop there for, I don't know if it was for his, I think it was for a Senate race. I thought it was a presidential race at the time, but now I think it was a Senate race. But
What year was it?
that's the thing, I'm not exactly sure. I think it was like this, it would have been like 99, 2000. So it could have been a predecessor for the, exactly, it could have been his first presidential run. It could have also been, I think he was also running for the Senate at the same time. There's some debate in our family about what exactly it was, but I somehow at that age already knew who he was, and I recognized him before my parents did. And he came up, he said hi. We didn't take a photo, sadly, but I got to just meet this guy I'd seen on TV for a second, and he was perfectly delightful. His wife creeped me out, but he was just this delightful old man who reminded me of my grandfather. And then over the next 12, 16 years, I saw him go become the maverick. And as someone who has disagreed with him on a lot of political issues, I did almost vote for him several times. But the reason that what inspired me about him is, one, his service obviously is an incredible story of survival, but again and again, and this was just reinforced in the latter years of his life, his ability to build compromise and consensus. And I have found myself missing that more and more and more the past couple of years since he passed, and trying to do as much of what I saw him do in the Senate in the companies that I worked in. That's where can I build consensus? Where can I bring people together to get this stuff done? Yes, we disagree on how the marketing budget should be spent. Okay, how can we figure this out? And so it was kind of in my head, I didn't have in my head, it wasn't what would Obama do, it was what would McCain do, because that's what he was known for. And so that was a huge thing for me. And that's something I will always remember learning from him. you know, and I always think of him pre-Palin, because I think Palin just neutered him completely. But that was a very powerful thing for me as well. So that real focus on compromise and consensus and moving forward together, that I look forward to the day that we can do that again in this country.
Yeah. I'm not even gonna go there.
Yeah, sorry, that one's loaded.
No, fair enough. Okay, so my second one, and it's the reason why I switched the order is, I think about how I want to make people feel, and this person has really helped me hone how I want to make people feel. So I've become recently, and I'm also talking about this a lot, I'm like obsessed with Mr. Rogers right now. My I don't know, 5-year goal is to become the female cursing tattooed modern version of Mr. Rogers, but for entrepreneurs. And there are a million things about him that I absolutely love. The way his emphasis on just kindness. But I think one of the things that was most powerful for me is everything that he talks about of, frankly, the specialness of every single person, and the belief that we are all worthwhile, and that if we could all just feel worthwhile, our entire culture would change. And so I chose this quote. Well, I'm going to do two. I'm going to cheat. So he says, as human beings, our job in life is to help people realize how rare and valuable each one of us really is. That each of us has something that no one else has or ever will have, something inside that is unique to all time. It's our job to encourage each other to discover that uniqueness and to provide ways of developing its expression. And I think we live in this culture where, and particularly as salespeople, particularly as entrepreneurs, where we're always told like, hey, this is what it looks like to be successful. Follow that, do that. And it doesn't work. When we do exactly what somebody else does, it's just not the same, and it's not as powerful. And I think all the time about how we can all do a better job of celebrating what makes each of us different and recognizing that that's what makes us powerful. And the fact that he did both that, but also while being just like this ridiculously kind human, I just wish we had more people in this world that had that energy and had that impact. I think we'd live in a very different country and a very different world if we followed more of that model.
Yes. Just yes. And I think the last person for me is, again, speaks very much to my own personality, but is Marie Curie. And she's become kind of a more recent hero of mine because there's been a lot of published work. And I actually the last time I took a vacation, I got to go to Paris. And I remember seeing her grave, she was, I believe, the first woman entombed at the Pantheon, which is where all the great French heroes are buried. You've got Victor Hugo and all these other people, and she was the first woman buried in there. But she's buried with her husband in these lead-lined coffins because of all the radiation she was exposed to in her life. It's a miracle she lived as long as she did. But she inspires me because of her devotion to science in and of itself, and understanding the process and trusting that humanity would know what to do with it in the long term, and trust that it would work itself out in the end. There would be bumps, but it would work itself out in the end if the science was good to begin with. And the other thing that's really been inspirational to me is my husband and I are actually about to have our 10-year anniversary of being married. We've been together for longer than that. And marriage is not easy. I'm very lucky to have a partner who truly believes in me and what I do, even when I don't, especially when I don't. And so I find a lot of the women that I look up to have these strong partners in their corner. Ruth Bader Ginsburg had a notoriously loving and healthy relationship with her husband, and it spoke very openly about the impact that he had on her. And Marie Curie had the same thing with her husband. The only reason she got the Nobel Prize was because her husband refused it if they didn't also acknowledge her. So seeing that partnership and reminding myself that it's not just her work, but seeing the champions around her who saw her for what she was as a foreigner. She wasn't French, she was Polish, you know, intruding into not just the country, but into the sciences as a whole, and her just single-minded focus on, I am going to figure this out. And then she figures it out and she just keeps going with it and keeps going and keeps seeing how far she can take it. And watching that balance and how that all worked out it's very inspirational to me, especially when things are difficult, especially when I don't know what the end outcome is. She didn't know she was discovering elements. She had an idea, but she knew, she worked the science. There was something there. So when I'm struggling, when I'm seeing, I don't know how to get there, but I know this is important, that's what comes to mind. It's okay, I can lean on my support network. I can reach out to people who I know believe in me and who trust me, because they wouldn't do that if there wasn't something here. And it keeps me going. And kind of even pulling all together, that's the point of heroes. You have to have things to aspire to remind yourself that, not like, oh, well, if they did this incredible thing, I can do that incredible thing. I could never do. I don't know that I could do what Ruth Bader Ginsburg or John McCain or Marie Curie did. I definitely could do what Marie Curie did because I suck at math, but that's a different story. I don't know that I could do what they did, but I can learn so much from watching what they did and how they did it, that it gives me that little bit of hope, that little bit of inspiration to keep trying, to try something different, to push when sometimes, and let's be honest, there are days when you really just want to throw your hands up in the air and say, screw it. And as I'm processing this stuff from this news of her passing, the one thing I found myself searching for is I want a reason to hope. I want a reason to hope. And even just talking through here in the past 20 minutes, you know, going through these heroes, like, I got a reason to hope. We've come through worse. It's dark, it's scary, it's sad. But that's why we have heroes, to remind us that there is a light at the end. So I'm going to be leaning on these guys and gals even more in the next few weeks.
Yeah, here's to that.
All right. So we are going to be announcing a couple changes to the Other Side of Sales in the coming weeks, least of which being we are actually going to be moving to a new day very soon. So more on that later. If you're interested in writing for the Other Side of Sales blogs, please reach out to hello@othersideofsales.com, or you can fill out the content submission form on our website. Please hit us up on LinkedIn, Twitter, all the usual social medias, and make sure that you have signed up for our mailing list on othersideofsales.com so you can be notified the moment the State of Sales survey is live. You are not going to want to miss that. And with that, thank you for listening to another episode of The Other Side of Sales.